Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video from Average FPL. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to take a quick look at a wildcard team because although we spend loads of time over the summer agonizing over who to get in and who to pick, a very common strategy for a lot of people is to look at the first week of action and make quick and decisive changes, not only to get in players that you think are on form, but also to get on any price rises that are going to be popping up over the next few days or weeks and so on. So I've got my wildcard team in front of me here, and I'm just going to talk you through it, what we've got and why, and different decisions that I've made for particular players. So we're starting goal, and we've got Henderson. He's just made 7 saves in his first game of the season against Newcastle. I know they conceded a couple, but he has in his next seven. They're made up of West Ham, Everton, Bournemouth, Leeds, and Fulham. Now I know by the time you get to the seventh game, there'll be a lot more information and a lot more evidence of how teams are going to do. But if you're going to be making your wild card right now, you kind of need to be set for more than the next 4 game weeks, because, or at least have a plan on how you're going to move off these players that you're getting in, because you're going to have them in your team until the World Cup pretty much. So you need to be aware of that and plan for the middle term. Block out the next few game weeks rather than looking at the next week, because a lot of times people use the wild card straight away and then think that they're going to get a wild card every week, and that's something they can do all the time, and it's not. So if you're going to use it, you got to be brave and you got to think straightforward. My other goalkeeper is going to be Ward. That could also be Everson, depending on who you think is going to play the most minutes. But I think both goalkeepers there add up to 8.5 million, and it saves you money, and you're allowed and able to spend that money elsewhere in other parts of your team. So looking into the defence, we've got Zinchenko there, really attacking in his first game and has great fixtures. Already got an assist and a clean sheet. I believe he got 3 bonus points as well. And in his next seven, he has Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa, Everton, and Brentford mixed in there. They look great. Arsenal also looked fantastic, and I really think it could be their year to, be well within the top four. I don't think it's going to be as close as people think. I think they could, build a bit of momentum early on in the season, and then take it from there. Uh, Other defender we've got is Patterson from Everton. He's starting right now, and he's 4 million of your budget. Okay, so that is a 4 million defender that you could have on the bench. They're the 4 million, 4.5 million players. They're usually there just as a last resort on your third bench. This guy's playing right now. Villa, Forest, and Brentford, and Leeds in his next four. And it doesn't really matter if Coleman comes back in. If he's playing, brilliant. That's a bonus. If he doesn't play and Coleman comes back in, you've not lost anything, because that is just the cheapest option you can get. So rather than get a 4 million player in that's not going to play, you might as well get someone in that's going to be involved at the start of the season. Next in the defence, we've got Cancelo. That looks pretty obvious to me. That's Man City. Fixtures are always good, but the next five, I think, are Bournemouth, Newcastle, Palace, Forest, and Villa. Always very attacking. You could maybe get in Kyle Walker instead for 2 million cheaper if you were just after the clean sheet points, but Cancelo does offer a lot more going forwards as well. That's really a preference. If you wanted Kyle Walker, you could add a bit more depth in on your bench maybe, or improve some of the players in your starting 11. That's completely up to you. I've gone with Cancelo there. And last, rounding off the defence, we've got Robertson. To be honest, looked better than Trent towards the end of last season. Actually scored a lot of his points, I think, towards the end of last season as well, and really caught Trent up that way. So in terms of those sorts of statistics, could be a bit more on form. And it's your way into Liverpool defence. I know they've conceded two against Fulham last week, but usually they're going to be pretty solid. And he's 0.5 million cheaper than Trent. You could swap Cancelo to Walker and Robertson to Trent if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. I quite prefer the Cancelo and Robertson combination if you had to decide between the two pairs there. Also on the bench in defence, we've got Nico Williams. Again, 4 million defender that's playing, speaks for itself really, and just helps me to round off the bench with players that are going to play, but are also cheap enough to allow you the players in as well. On to the midfield. So we've got Kulusevski, just got a goal and assist this last weekend. And, sometimes the things that I do is I kind of stay away from players because I think, oh, they're not going to do that every week. What about someone like Son? Kulusevski is a good, 3.5, I think, million cheaper than Son. He's coming in at 8 mil. And, I know people also say there's Richarlison's going to take his minutes. Um, I don't really think that. I think it's Kulusevski's spot to lose. If he's got a goal and assist in the first game, Richarlison, yeah, he might come on for 20 minutes or something, but Kulusevski's going to play the bulk of that game time. And, he's so heavily involved in the attack. And for that price, I think, get on him pretty quick. Don't do what I'd normally do and wait and think it's going to be other players. If somebody looks good and you can get him in and ride the wave until he stops doing well, or you think you can move on for somebody else that you think's going to do is just as good in the future. Got Saka in there as well. Arsenal, just like we spoke about with Zinchenko, looking really good. Um, they've got those fixtures of Leicester, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Villa in the next four, and then they've also got Man United, Everton, and Brentford in the next three after that. So the hardest fixture there is going to be Man United. Other than that, you're looking at teams from the bottom half of the table pretty much. I know Leicester and Villa potentially mid-table, but um, and that might as well also talk about Jesus there as well. I know he didn't get any points in the season, in the first game of the season, but I do think that Jesus is going to be really involved in Arsenal's attack going forward. He is the guy, and if you think Arsenal are going to have a good season like I do, it would make sense to get in an 8 million striker that's going to play more often than not. I remember when Jesus first came on the scene and his minutes were little for Man City, but his goal per minutes were incredible. He was so heavily involved. It was really promising. So it'd be interesting to see how he does. And then Salah as the final midfielder there, goal and assist in his first game. I know they didn't get the win against Fulham, but it's maybe just easing into the season. But I think the fixtures look good. Even if they didn't, you'd still get him in because he's so well owned and he's going to guarantee you points. I think it could be his best point scoring season this season. Um, Going forward. So yeah, and then up front we spoke about Jesus, but I've got Haaland in there. Bournemouth and Forest in his next four, two out of his next four games. Bournemouth and Forest. Looks like the focal point of Man City's attack. I know there's certain rotation risks, but also probably not. There's not really many players if they're going to play this system that could play as the focal point. So I do think Haaland, if you're worried about missing out on points, then I think Haaland is a great option to have and worth the money. And you can swap between him and Kane if you want throughout the season. Speaking about missing out on points, I said in a previous video that people are worried about missing out on Salah and Haaland and De Bruyne and players like that. And I was worried about missing out on Mitrovic, and I talked myself out of getting him out of the team. And he's only gone and got 2 goals against Liverpool. Yeah, one's a pen, but it shows Fulham's intent on the pitch to be in the penalty box in order to get a pen against a team like Liverpool and take it to them. He's got Wolves and Brentford in his next two. I think the difficult fixtures after that, I think he's got some of the top six, but you've got to bear in mind he's just scored two against Liverpool, so maybe he's an early one for being fixture proof. Um, and do I think he's going to score two every game? No, but he's like Kulusevski. He's one of those players where he's just scored two in his first game. Get him in. He's clearly on form, and he had a great season last season, and the upside is massive for his price at 6.5 million. I don't. He's not that hard to fit in your team, so I don't really see the downside there. Rounding off the bench, I've got Andreas again for Fulham, 4.5, and Joe Willock for Newcastle. I think he's 5 million. And both have played. Both looked okay. I mean, your bench players there. Really, you're just looking at if you're starting 11 there, the only one I'd really rotate out of that, would be Patterson, depending on the fixtures. So your bench doesn't need to be super deep for a team like this, but bear in mind if you are wildcarding, your chips are limited after that. So having a reasonable bench is probably advisable. You're going to need your big hitters in, but you're also got your changes are going to be limited going forward. So being able to be flexible with your bench and bringing players in and out depending on fixtures or injuries is a great idea going forward. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Let me know what you think about my wildcard team. If you do anything different, if you're wildcarding right now and you've you've got any questions or anything, please subscribe and like the channel. Any support is greatly appreciated. Again, should have said that at the start. If anyone's still listening to me rambling on now, please like and subscribe. And yeah, hope you had a good first game week and good luck in your next one. And I'll see you in the next one.